And the chief is joining me now, so great to see you and Happy New Year to you.
Good to see you. Happy New Year, Dan.
So we just laid out some of those numbers, right? Some of them certainly the positive takeaways for you and the department as you really were trying to reduce crime. So let's begin with the positives first and the takeaways and the highlights for you in 2023.
So the highlights first, we had a mandate to reduce crime in 2023, and we did that. Less people murdered, less rapes, less grand larcenies, less robberies, less burglaries, and violence. You just mentioned it. 400 less shooting victims this year than last year, 700 less in the last 2 years. However, some of those crimes were offset by, you mentioned it, felony assaults, domestic violence, assaults on police officers, very scary, and then stolen cars. So we made strides in some great areas, but we also have to correct some of the other areas I just mentioned. But overall, crime is down, and we're happy about that, especially where we came from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially where we've come the last couple of years up against bail reform, raise the age, less is more for parolees, the defunded police corral. We've caught it.
Okay.
And now we want to bring it down.
And I want to get to some of those specifics in just a second, but I've talked about this before about the perception of a New Yorker, right? And the perception is, while the numbers are down, I walk outside and I'm a little afraid, I'm scared. Is that part of the goal for 2024 to tackle that perception that's out there?
Absolutely.
Because perception's reality.
And it's a very hard thing to do. But perception, what does the community want to see? I've been doing this a long time. Community want to see cops in the street walking around. They want to see cops in transit. They want to see their quality of life improve as an individual New Yorker. They don't want to see mopeds drive around in groups and reckless driving. Well, we've taken 45,000 of those vehicles off the streets in the last 2 years. They don't want to see homeless encampments. We've reduced that greatly. They don't want to see illegal peddling. So
how do you do that, right? Because the issue is some of those classes that are coming out have been suspended. You're saying there's a new class of 600 officers or so, but are the numbers where you really need them to be?
Well, our staffing is slightly down. We know that. But we have a class going in, like you mentioned, like 650 plus, give or take. We have 1,100 eligible people who want to be police officers on deck.
Okay.
So people want to take this job. I think a lot of it is because it's a great job, number one, and the mayor gave the cops a great contract. So, you know, we'll get those numbers up, and we'll get there, but we're a great agency. We're dynamic. We can move. We make adjustments.
So when you look at the auto thefts, right, there's this whole thing on TikTok. We've talked about it over the past year, that TikTok and specific cars are the ones that are being targeted. How do you plan to tackle the auto thefts that are really bringing up the overall number in New York?
So something new that we never had before. Social media being irresponsible, showing young kids how to steal two types of cars, Hondas and Kias. How do we combat that? 1 in 3 cars in the city are stolen out of the Bronx. The raw number increase for just Hondas and Kias in 2023, 2,400 plus.
So how do you get that number down?
So we've made the most arrests in years in stolen cars, but we have to work better with our DA's office. When we talk about recidivism, we have to go after recidivists that keep stealing these cars, work and strategize with our DA's office to build a great case to take them off the street, and then crime prevention. We got to get the word out to parents, to schools, any way we can to get the word out what's going on and not to do it.
Okay, now I've heard you talk about transparency overall, right? And that's a big part of the mission for 2024. I want to talk about this incident in Brooklyn, this fare beater. Brooklyn Councilman Shahina Hanif tweeting in response that our office has reached out to the transit district about a cruel incident on the 7th Avenue FG station. She talks about violent broken windows policing doing nothing to keep us safe. You've seen the video. What's your response to it?
Cruel and violent policing, so you're blaming us. We have 2 cops doing their job. They check, they find a fare evader, and at the most, the person will get a summons, if not a break. But he doesn't want to cooperate, he doesn't want to give identification, and now he wants to resist arrest. How about this, Dan? How about pay your fare, be a lawful citizen, don't fight with the police, and you wouldn't have this situation.
So did they overreach?
Absolutely not. They did their job, and they did it well. And if you're going to try to engage us in a fight, we're going to engage you back and make a lawful arrest. But talk about fare evasion. Just yesterday, besides that incident, 2 more incidents in transit where cops were engaged in a fare evader, and they both had guns on them.
Okay.
And to go back to the first situation, that man also has a switchblade. We have an increase in people getting stabbed in the city, and that man had a switchblade.
Okay.
So they did their job. They did it well, and there's a responsibility for the community to follow the law, just like the police department.
I want to talk to you about the How Many Stops Act passing by the City Council. Now, the mayor hasn't signed off on it yet. He says he's probably going to veto it, but it is veto-proof when you look at the numbers of the City Council, right? So when you look at it in the totality, there's been kind of this back and forth of what exactly it's going to do to police who are on the streets. How do you view it may change policing in New York City?
Just not needed. We don't agree with it. Okay? This bill will mandate anytime we do an investigation, talk to a witness on the street, we have to fill out a piece of paper, and we got to ask you your name, your age, what race you are. Think about this. If there's a young child, we had a young autistic kid missing the other day. We went full force to find this child. We have to ask numerous people in the street, have you seen this person? Have you seen this young kid? Every person we interact, we got to stop them when they're done to fill out a piece of paper. Our body-worn cameras do that for us. Anytime we take investigative action or police action, the body-worn camera goes on. Now we're doubling down with paperwork. That's just going to bog us down. And human nature says, hey, if I got to do 50 pieces of paper today, I'm not going to talk to 50 people. Maybe I'll talk to 10. It's just ill-conceived. We don't agree with it. But at the end of the day, if it is passed, we will do our job.
Right, but it will not affect the bottom line here, which is public safety.
Well, it does, which is just all those pieces of papers cumulatively throughout 35,000 police officers or 16,000 on the street, my patrol officers, that takes away time from the street, so it will affect it.
Okay. I'm out of time. I wanted to talk to you about more. We'll have to have you back to talk about gun crime, domestic violence, because there's a whole bunch of things that are on the decline to talk about, but we're out of time for now. But Happy New Year to you, and appreciate you being here.
Anytime.
Okay?